Sunday, 20th of May, 2007. Stadium Australia, 36th minute, second tackle. 15 metres shark side of halfway. Quick play the ball from Reece Williams. Isaac De Gois catches John Green not square at marker. Shrugs off Brent Sherwin. Pushes off Lee Tamari, then accelerates. Speeds away from Willie Tonga. Right foot step on the fullback, Luke Patton. Over the 40, over the 30, all the way after the disaster of 2006 was Isaac De Gois putting his hands up to carry this team to newfound glory at 10-0 up with a small but vocal group of travelling fans and the CWC in full voice for a moment on this sunny Sunday afternoon. We all put our hands up and we all dared to dream. Welcome to another episode of Classic Cronulla Chronicles. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the ET Stand, the Cronulla Sharks fan podcast. We're really at talking to the football. With me tonight, David Balderman, as we take our minds back to 2007. That was second year of the CWC. That was pre-Kevin 07, so it was still John Howard was PM at the time. Sunny Sunday afternoon. We'd won a few games. We were up near the top of the table. Ricky Stewart was in power. Things were looking good. David, I know you were there. That was one of the real standout CWC moments there to talk about that and everything associated with it. So what are your memories initially of that try?
That try and that match, I remember the deafening silence of the put your hands up chant from the CWSC and just the put your hands up and just the silence.
The echo?
The echo and just the impact that had on. And so we had this concept of, owning the opposition fans and the impact that the CWSC at the time had. It was a special time to be a Sharks fan. And I remember being, around that time being really excited about, Kamali with Dykes still, with Ricky Stewart, with the way the team was playing, especially the back row of Thompson, Gallen and Bird. It was a pretty slick looking Sharks team that maybe should have done a little bit better than they did in the end. But it was a great time to be a Sharks fan. And I do remember going out to this one. This may have been the match where I even met you, Matthew. Who knows?
Who knows? I had been around the CLC for a bit by then and had been to a few away games with them, but I tended to, or myself and good friend Bryn and a few others at the time used to make our own way to games like at the Sydney Football Stadium, 06 and the like, in Campbelltown and things like that. But this was my bus of dreams both ways debut, I suppose. A few times I rocked up at away games and then got the bus back. But it may well have been the first day I met you. I don't know. I can't specifically recall.
Who knows? I don't remember the moment that I met you, but I do remember definitely talking to you on a bus once.
Yeah.
It was a great time to be a Sharks fan. So I think it is a spoiler. I think we have just given a spoiler away that maybe the Sharks get up in this one. Yeah. But you don't know. The Sharks didn't win the last one that I was on with you on this, Matty. So who knows?
They didn't lose. But anyway, spoiler alert. Yes, we only cover we'll say the momentous matches. They'll be the ones you remember. Yeah, we may cover 74-4 at some stage, but I don't think we'll go in depth into too many losses outside of things that were just completely either hilarious or catastrophic or cataclysmic. But 07, you're right. Interesting times. Round 10. We'll look at the form going into it in a sec, but it was exciting. It was new coach, new era, some new signings, some interesting try scorers in this one as well. You're right about the deafening silence of it. I suppose it was that English Premier League or that European sport kind of feel that the CLBC brought to it, owning fans after they were historically formed. So the story goes after 2005, Shark Park being owned by West Tigers fans. That was the 36th minute. It was low scoring. There've been chances both ways, but it was I'd say 98% Bulldogs focused crowd because Sharks fans didn't tend to travel well all the time.
Sharks fans don't love travelling to Stadium Australia, do they?
I would say Stadium Australia is probably a point, especially in that era.
This is a difficult train ride from Cronulla, isn't it?
It's a pain.
The train ride from Cronulla into the city and then out, it's just painful. And then you've got to drive.
Yeah, it's a pain. Parking costs a fortune, or you park in Lidcombe and get the train or walk from wherever. But I have been pleasantly surprised recently. So the Another thing is the Parramatta game last year that I went to with you on the 6 p.m. on the Friday night. There was a lot of Sharks fans there, which I was surprised by, and we had a fair bit of noise from the crowd. Quite a few games I've been to in Newcastle. I was surprised by the amount of fans up there. Canberra, I love that. There's always at least, I'd say, a third of the crowd of Sharks fans there. There's a lot that live interstate there and go. They're just locals go, and obviously Brisbane as well. In Queensland, there's quite a few that live up there. But yeah, Bulldogs, this one was very, very heavily in favour of the home team, and they were silenced in that moment. And what better way to do it? But we'll have a look at the form going into it, because it was interesting. We were sitting fourth. I remember a good start to 2007. Obviously, do you remember who we won first round that year? It was a Shark Park in the wet on a Saturday night.
You tested me. I was looking at the rugby league project form coming in. I know they were looking pretty good early on, but go on.
Anyway, we beat Penrith 18-0.
That's right, we did.
Yeah.
We did Penrith 18-0. And they ended up being wooden spooners that season.
Did they? Oh, there you go. I didn't realise they were wooden spooners.
Oddly enough.
Brett Carney scored the first try that year off the back of the scrum, Ben Barber / or even Ben Pomeroy in that era style. And people were lauding the Sharks' defence. We spoke about in a recent episode about holding teams to nil. We held a few teams to nil that year. And we started well. And here we had a decent run of form, having beaten the Broncos, the reigning premiers. That seems a long time ago now since they won that 2006 grand final at 16-8 on a Friday night. And the famous, this is the game you thought we'd cover in our very first Chronicles episode, the Luke Cavell deliberately missed field goal. Deliberate missed penalty goal match.
Missed goal, the 22-20.
2020 would have made it 24-20, and yes, he shanked it. We fielded the 20-meter restart, the 20-meter dropout, and wound down the clock and won from there. But we also had a loss on a Monday night to the Knights, 16-20, which I think you were at that game. I remember watching that one. I was at uni and watched that at a pub that did.
Was that an away game?
It was an away game. Yeah, watched that over a cheap steak and a cheap beer on a Monday night, and I think we almost came back and won that one after giving up an early lead, but didn't. We towed up, obviously, the Raiders 26-0, another game to nil there. And we lost, I think it was on the Anzac weekend, that one 14-12 to the Tigers, a late Chris Lawrence try.
We always lost to around that era. We had terrible record against the Tigers in that time.
You're right, terrible record.
Always lose.
Yeah, the Bulldogs, 2004 premiers, 2005 missed the finals completely, and then kind of started working their way back. They were 11th. They'd had a bit of patchy form, got smashed by the Storm, beat the Knights pretty handsomely, got smashed by the Tigers, snuck home against the Eels, and lost in a close one to the eventual grand finalists Manly that year, 16-14. So they were a bit up and down. We were heavy favourites to go into it, which, if you look at the sides, yeah, like in hindsight, I suppose at the time we were in form. We'd just beaten Brisbane, who were a bit out of form. The Bulldogs
they were under strength for Origin.
The Bulldogs still had a lot of stars in their team, though. And if we, I suppose, skip forward to that one, in that I can go through the slide or through the teams. We'll start off with the Bulldogs, I suppose. We'll go number 1, Luke Patton. The wingers, Hazem El Masri, and number 22, Trent Cutler. Never heard of him before or since. Number 3, yes, he is the former Shark, Andrew Emilio, with Willie Tonga partnering him in the centres, while the halves, Ben Roberts and Brent Sherwin. The front row, missing a bit of quality there with Jared Hickey, Corey Hughes, the captain, future Shark, and Chris Armett, while the back row, Sonny Bill Williams, future Shark, and current Sharks coaching staff member Daniel Holdsworth, and future Shark Reddy Matua, while the bench, Adam Perry, Lee Tamari, Kane Cleal, and past / future Shark John Green, the coach, the late Steve Folkes. While for the Shark side, you'll see an alphabet of mixed numbers in the back line. Number 2, Missy Talapapa, the fullback. The wingers, number 4,
Who was named
Fraser
at fullback?
It was Brett Carney, I believe. Brett Carney was a late.
Yeah, he was, wasn't he?
I think it was Brett Carney. David
Yeah,
Simmons
he was. He was named and he was injured.
Yeah, so he was injured. You can see Mitch Brown jumping forward. He's number 21 on the bench. So there's a few injuries there. So Missy Talapapa was number 2, the fullback. The wingers, number 4, Fraser Anderson. Number 5, the ever-trusty Luke Cavell. The centres, our favourite, number 3, Benjamin Pomeroy. While number 16, Reece Williams, big centre. He did play a few games of the centres around this time. And the halves pairing, I'd say I love them, but the maligned pairing in itself of Dykes and Kamali. At the front row, Ben Ross, Kevin Kingston, Craig Stapleton. The back row, it's a killer of Paul Gallen, the late Lance Thompson and Greg Bird. And the bench, Luke Douglas, Isaac, put your hands up for De Gois, Philip Luluai, and Mitch Brown, the coach in his first year with the club, Ricky Stewart.
I don't remember Mitch Brown or not getting on the field in this match.
I don't think he did. Having watched the replay this evening very quickly, I don't recall him getting
I didn't notice him get on the field.
He must have been cover, and being in jersey 21, looking at it now. So, yeah, Brett Carney was our late admission in fullback. Oh, he was another one that missed out that was in the original named lineup too.
Was it Dustin?
No, it wasn't actually, but he had a great chant. It was, to go back to CWC days, it was to the same tune as I Predict a Right by the Kaiser Chiefs. So, I Predict a Right. Henry Perenara, who ended up being an NRL referee, but Perenara.
He's pretty good, Henry Perenara.
He did. He scored a try for us. He played how many games? Let's have a look here.
He played about 5.
Yeah,
maybe not even, maybe 2.
Nine games in 2007 for us with 2 tries. He scored. I remember he scored.
He had that really good game against Parramatta.
Yeah, he had a great game against. Yes, he had a game against Manly where he was pretty good. You were right. He was good against Parramatta, and he scored in a 17 points to 16 loss to Melbourne on a Monday night in round 21. And that was his last match in first grade after having played for the Sharks, the Eels, St. George Illawarra, Melbourne, and the Warriors. So journeyman, and had also represented New Zealand and in one test and New Zealand Maori as well. So there's a bit of a tangent for you. The ins were Philip Luluai to the bench and Mitch Brown to the bench. Whilst, Missy Talpalpa, I don't remember him playing too many games at fullback for us. Obviously, David Simmons didn't even make the team list Tuesday in that era because he was obviously between him and Carney. They were the fullbacks of choice at the time. With Mitch Brown getting a little bit of a run. I think he played a game at fullback for us later that year against the Eels where we broke our 7-match losing streak with a Brett Seymour field goal. We'll definitely cover that one another time. Golden point against the eventual minor premiers that year. But, yeah, it was
other telling things about this lineup. The big news coming into this was that Brett Kamali had not been picked at halfback for New South Wales. And New South Wales had picked Jared Mullen. How'd that work out for you, New South Wales?
Well, Mullen he was very young at the time. And was that when he'd only played a handful of first grade games? Joey had retired early in 2007.
Joey had retired because Sonny Bill had taken him out a few weeks earlier.
Yeah,
that match. In fact, the match 2 weeks earlier was the one where Sonny Bill injured Joey for the Bulldogs.
Really?
Yep.
Okay.
30 to 16, I think you'll find.
Okay, because I think Joey did retire early in 2007.
Yeah, that's when Joey retired.
Was it a neck injury that finally did him in? Obviously, he had a lot of injuries in this time. Yeah, I just looked up.
Other than that, coming into this match, I thought the commentary team it was a Channel 9 commentary for this match, and I thought it was fun that it was Ben Icon on sideline commentary for Channel 9.
Yeah, it was obviously a fresh-faced. We were talking about last week about how fresh-faced Ben Icon was as a.
I like Ben Icon as a commentator. Bring Ben Icon back to NRL 360. I say.
I think he's level-headed. He's
no fool, Ben Icon.
Yeah, he's a very smart guy. Speaking of Jared Mullen, though, I'm just thinking of a random tangent. When I first moved to Newcastle in 2015, I was driving home from work, and Jared Mullen was on one of his other injury layoffs, and he was in a very flush car. I can't remember exactly what it was, and he pulled up kind of diagonally offset from me. And there was a guy in front of me, a tradie in a ute, who wound the window down and just gave him one of the biggest serves I think I've ever seen. Obviously, they're very... Yeah, it was basically like you on all this money. There was lots of expletives in there. How dare you, kind of bring this town into disrepute, let's say, and waste all the salary cap. They're a proud bunch up there in Newcastle. That was back when they were on their way to multiple wooden spoons in a row, and he was on mega bucks, hardly playing anything. He eventually had his banned substance test as well. So Yeah, interesting times having Mullen there. But yeah, you're right. There was a talk of Kamali missing out Origin. Gallen had obviously missed Origin as well after playing game 3 of 2006. So at this game, at this point in time, he had only played one State of Origin game. Obviously, things
and Greg Bird had
change.
not been picked yet. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct. I think Bird was picked for game 3, and I think he had a man the match or close to man the match there, and he definitely had a man the match performance in game 1 of 2008.
Because he played with Kamali in the halves, didn't he, in 2008?
He did. Yeah, it was. There you go. How often do you see a Sharks halves pairing at
Sharks
Origin
half
level?
pairing.
Crazy times.
We'd kill for that halves pairing in the State of Origin now, wouldn't we?
Yeah,
so
well,
looking at this team, Matthew, before we progress, sorry, how do we think about this Sharks team versus the current Sharks team? Because it's kind of a common burning thing. Is like, how do we feel about this? I think the current Sharks team is better than this one. Not
absolutely.
by much, but a little bit. I think the back line's better.
The back line is better. So obviously I'd say that Fraser Anderson is a talking point later, but he always impressed me. It's a shame when we lost him. We'll go into detail later, but obviously Pomeroy and Williams, a bit of a spare parts centre pairing there compared to what we have, especially I'd say Ramian.
Well, basically none of those back five make the team now, do they?
No, I think
Dykes makes the team now as 5'8", and obviously you'd push Kamali to halfback, and Nico would be 5'8".
Nico and Kamali. I mean, we're talking hypotheticals here, but Nico 5'8", Kamali halfback. That does something for me there, I think. Although I would say Nico 2022 kicking game would be great. He's obviously, as Francis and yourself have said, hampered by injuries, and I think his kicking game is suffering a lot at the moment. Noddy always had a kicking game that was divisive, let's say. He didn't have the biggest boot on him. A couple of grubbers in this game were blocked. A few bombs were caught on the full Indian goal. So,
And then looking at it, the
forwards,
Ben Ross would get picked in the team now.
Definitely.
Kingston wouldn't. Stapleton wouldn't. Gallen, Thompson, and Bird obviously would.
Interesting though, because I mean, back rowers have changed again.
They have, haven't they? I noticed that in this too.
You look at what Nicola does versus what Gallen. Obviously, Gallen was only 6 years into is in his 6th season in first grade, having debuted in mid 01. So he would definitely make it. Thompson was more of a front row in this day and age. While
he'd be a middle forward.
Yeah, Bird was outstanding, and he makes a really key play before one of the tries in this one. So Bird obviously would be in there.
How good is that play?
Exactly. That was
actually the play that Greg Bird makes is very telling for the subject that we had on the ET Stand podcast, our last episode on the Tuesday night show, actually, and the offloads. All right, do we get into it?
Yeah, we'll rip into the actual match itself as we always do. So straight off the bat, nothing happened in the first 28 minutes. There was an arm wrestle. There was back and forward. We had quite a few sets in their line, and the commentary team were talking a bit about the Kamali Dykes pairing and attack struggling in 2006, and also saying that they need to provide more than that if they're going to go further in this comp. We were obviously highly fancied heading into this one, and you just got that vibe. And I remember being there too, going, "Oh, we're favourites here, but we haven't converted after having multiple sets on their line." The Dogs, big crowd. 12,000, but a Dogs patriotic crowd behind them. If they jag the first try or two, it's going to be tough to come back. But eventually we got there. Adam Dykes look left, went right, darting out a dummy half about 10 metres out, fed it off to the right to big Phil Lulawai, who barged over for the first try of his career. And Luke Cavell with the trusty conversion from near the sideline to make it 6-0. And
Dykes first receiver.
Yeah, actually that was Dykes dummy
the play,
half.
Wasn't he?
That was Dykes from dummy half, that one. But he was doing a bit of first receiver. Dykes.
Was he dummy half for that one?
He was dummy half for that one.
He was so elusive, Dykes, wasn't he?
The reason I picked up specifically on him being dummy half was because last game that we're talking about against Norths in 1996, Dykes was playing hooker, replacing Dean Treaster off the bench. So I thought it was apt that Dykes had a dummy half scoot there after I was talking last week about having never seen Dykes play dummy half ever, or not really recalling seeing it anyway. But 6-0. We then, shortly after that, had the moment. And a mere 30 seconds, 20 seconds prior to that, Brent Sherwin, great 40-20 attempt, and it was a lucky bounce. Fraser, I think it was on the third or fourth tackle. Fraser Anderson, right winger, got caught up in the line. Sherwin tried to find him out. He was sprinting back, and as the commentary team said, he was saved by a lucky bounce where the ball just somehow sat up instead of rolling, and Anderson got back there to recover. He made a good run off that. We then had a good run off Reece Williams. So he's a centre. Noted second rower, carding the ball back up, second tackle, and then a quick play the ball. And then from there, that was where De Gois looked up. He'd had a couple of scoots so far. I think I'd have to check if that was actually the first try that he'd scored from us, because we'd signed him from the Tigers the year before, or the end of the 2006 season. And he was elusive out of dummy half. He just replaced Kevin Kingston. He had a bit of a dynamic aspect off the bench. And found one of the defenders napping, shrugged off Sherwin, beat Tamari, and then Willie Tonga. I said in my intro that he outpaced him. It was actually incorrect. I couldn't go into the details there, and don't let the truth get in the way of a good story. Tonga inexplicably ran alongside him and then ran away from him, thinking that another defender had him, before realizing that no one had him, and he only had the fullback to beat. Great right foot step, away he goes. Daniel Holdsworth, future Shark, is chasing, does not get there, and scores.
He was fast, De Gois.
He was. He was
fast.
Yeah, Andrew Voss. It was. I am a fan of Voss. He's a commentator. I know he gets a lot of stick, and it was peak Vossy form there, calling the Portuguese international. He might as well be a Portuguese sprinter. Get him to run the 100 at the Olympics, and scored. I'm just having a look.
And then we were into the first try. Dig.
And that's it, straight into it. So, we had signed him start of 07, and he had got a try earlier that year against South Sydney, and he'd also scored against Canberra. So it was the third try of his career for the Sharks. But still, that was definitely the best so far, and I reckon the best try that I saw him score for us.
It's a nice shot after this of the CWSC, wasn't there? Just in its...
Yeah, we'll
just cheering it on.
We'll show that at the end to our people watching. Those on Spotify, jump on and have a look. Those I'm sure I know we have a few former CWC members amongst us, our viewers. So get on and reminisce. From there, this was classic Sharks. Right on halftime, we talk about the all important third try, Boldo's third try principle. Go short side, Dyke shapes to kick, throws a pass. Sherwin, expert, picked it off and ran 95 metres to score in the right corner. I remember the Bulldogs fans, it was a deafening roar when that occurred. And it's just like, we've just thrown this first half away hard. And of course, El Masri nailed the conversion, and it was 12-6. Do you remember that one?
Yeah, I remember it being so clearly against the run of play.
Yeah.
And just thinking, how are we only 6 points ahead? We're going to blow this against the Bulldogs, who are somehow going to come back and get us.
And Andrew Voss did say against the run of play standards in the history of anything that's ever happened against the run of play, that's the most against the run of play thing I've ever seen. Like there was something along those lines. Bulldogs had no ball in our half at all, and all of a sudden they're 12-6 down at halftime. Similar, dare I say it, don't mention 2016, similar to the Matt Pryor try in 2016. We were gone, and then somehow just scrapped something.
We did have the better go forward. I think also at this time we'd just been conditioned to 2006 Sharks that just always blew it.
Just think negative. Yeah.
And so we certainly had negative thoughts. We weren't thinking, oh yeah, we've been on top of this game, we'll continue to be on top. But we probably should have realised that the go forward of the Sharks was just too good.
We were making long yardage in each set. Anyway, start of the second half, and it's not on the notes here, but we had a try disallowed, and it was a fair call. We turned the ball over about 30 metres out from the Bulldogs line. Quick interchange of passing put us down the right side. Got brought down. I think it was Luke Douglas with a handy little short ball onto Kamali, who got brought down about 10 metres out in the right corner. Quick play the ball, and De Gois went short side, gave it to I think it was Fraser Anderson, who appeared to score. It was a good covering tackle by the Bulldogs that actually knocked the ball out.
Yeah, it was. That's right.
The video referee, right?
Ronaldo scores that.
Yeah. Look, I will talk about Fraser Anderson shortly about how much I loved him. But any of our wingers today and Stone Street and everyone else would have just probably coasted in and ran around behind the six. But unfortunately, Fraser Anderson was that touch of pace too slow and didn't have the fancy put down and a good bit of covering tackle, knocked the ball loose. So remained 12-6, and then the Bulldogs made us pay just, I think it was next set. Marched downfield, got a penalty, quick tap by Sherwin. So they got 2 penalties, one to take downfield. And then they caught us off guard, quick tap by Sherwin, gave it to SBW, who, Sonny Williams, broke through 3 defenders out wide and left to score. It was on the back of a line break before the penalty, where they made a line break, I think through Ready Matua, swung left and then immediately swung back to the right, got the penalty, quick tap, scored. El Masri with an uncharacteristic miss where he didn't even look like going close. So 12-10 it remained. And then the Sharks actually finally did get some points through Reece Williams. This one was from a quick play the ball and dart from dummy half. This was a turnover by the Bulldogs again, and Phil Gould was talking about how the Dogs were trying to up the tempo, and they were causing us some trouble early in the second half. Ben Roberts put the ball down. Fraser Anderson basically scooped it up immediately and gave it off to Reece Williams, who ran through to score. There was a hint of obstruction there, but the video ref said no. It gave the green light, 18-10. And then here's another moment.
Well, I was going to say that funny one, Williams, on the Williams try, is that about 90 seconds earlier, the Sharks had received a penalty and chose not to take the 2.
You're right.
And I remember
4 points.
I remember lauding.
2 to 4.
Hey,
2 to 4 points isn't really worth it in my mind. But yeah.
Well, the thing is, I remember saying, "I'll take the 2, you idiots," as I do, as the ongoing argument goes. And then the Sharks obviously blew it and then didn't score. But then when the Bulldogs got the ball, they instantly turned it over and then the Sharks scored. And so then we had the interesting thing of, well, actually, does that count as not taking the 2 and then getting a try? Or did they not score? And then I remember us thinking, someone said, no, they scored straight away because they went for the try. And I'm like, yeah, did they or not?
No, Bulldogs coughed it up. It was a good tackle, but that does not count as a foregoing the 2 to go for the try. We did have a kick from 30 out right in front, an opportunity to kick from 30 out right in front when the score was 0-0. I think after about 20 minutes, Luke Cavell came sprinting in as best Cavell could and was sent away. We took the tap and didn't score. So, 2 opportunities for taking the 2 that we didn't take on this day. Anyway, we got the try through Williams. Cavell nailed the conversion, 18-10. And then, as was moments, I distinctly remember the DeGoyce moment. I think that was the moment of the match. But this one, Greg Bird. So there was Ready Matua line break. This prior to that, there was a Greg Bird 25-meter run off an error from the Bulldogs. Stepped 5 or 6 defenders, and then got a nice little offload out the back to number 3, Ben Pomeroy. And away he went down the left wing to run 50 meters to score. And
I think it was Greg Bird on the Gallon onto Pomeroy.
You're right. It was,
there was a little one of those little tap-ons from
interchange of passing, and
Gallon.
Gallon showed his his good hands there, and his ball playing skills, which saw him play around this era. He played 5'8" a few times as well himself, in addition to Greg Bird.
It was just a terrific offload from Greg Bird.
He had 2 guys on him, and he swung around, got his arm around the back, around the body, and then just put a perfect pass out at the back and opened up that left edge for us, and away he went.
It's the sort of play that is currently hurting the current Cronulla Sharks. The current Cronulla Sharks are struggling to defend against this sort of play.
You guys,
it was so good, and you just, that's the beauty of, you get those special players like Greg Bird, and you can just find them at those moments and they can just turn a try out of nothing. And then it did help that, we found Gallon, who's a pretty big player. And he was a bit leaner at this time, in his back row spot.
Speed.
And Pomeroy had a good season. This was Pomeroy's top try scoring season for the Sharks. And so then the Pom just stormed it in, and I remember us getting into the Pom chant as well.
Yeah, and he scored that one right in front of where we were. So that was big, scoring 2 tries in 5 minutes after we were looking like we're on the back foot. Despite being 2 points ahead, we suddenly got a 14-point lead again. The game would seesaw again. The Bulldogs would then run in 2 quick tries. Brent Sherwin in the 64th minute after an interchange of passing. That was off the back of some Corey Hughes wraparound play and line break. Ben Roberts line break there. Sorry, that was the following one. I'll check my notes again. The one prior was a Rennie Matua line break off Corey Hughes, swung to the left, offload to Hickey, who then gave an offload to Tonga, who swung it back in the side to Sherwin to score. That was El Masri. This is the worst kick I think I've seen him do in his entire career.
Oh, yeah, shocker.
Andrew Voss was talking about how he didn't muck around. That was the 64th minute. They still had a fair bit of time on the clock, 15 minutes to go. He rushed the kick and he just shanked it from adjacent to the post. Ben Eichen was talking about, maybe he's lost a bit of confidence there, but obviously he's a very good kicker, and that was uncharacteristic. Anyway, it wouldn't matter too much in that a few minutes' time, Corey Hughes had a wraparound with a Ben Roberts line break. Sherwin then popped it onto Hickey, one of the big props who didn't play too many games in his career, to score adjacent to the post to make it 24-20. El Masri got that one, and things were getting a bit nervous with about 11 minutes to go. Then
I remember thinking though that the at the 24-10 and the 8-point extra lead, it just makes the teams act a little bit differently in attack, and they're a little bit more desperate. I remember thinking at the time it just gave us that slight edge.
Well, you look at it, so it takes the penalty goal out of play. So that El Masri obviously felt pressured enough to hurry that kick. And by adjacent to the post, I mean it was closer to the post than the sideline, but still it wasn't. It obviously wasn't a gimme, and he, unfortunately for him, shanked it. If it was 24-22, I don't recall Bulldogs getting any penalties, but you know that if it's back within that 2-point range, all you need is one penalty goal and it's tied up. Yeah, if you need to score a try versus a penalty goal, it's psychologically different. So anyway, they came back. The Dogs crowd was roaring again. Sherwin, I thought, was really good, and this was towards the end of his career, I think, actually, because he get dropped. I don't recall, but I remember him falling out of favour at the Bulldogs. Anyway, he was very good with his kicking game, his passing game.
Well, by 2009, the Bulldogs had Kamali, didn't they?
Yeah, you're right. So he's only got at least at best a season to go. So he was very good there, I thought.
He's still fast enough to run that intercept. 95
meters. That had speed, he could defend. I know he got a fair bit of criticism for his defence, but he put some good hits on there. That was back in the day.
Remarkable, given that they signed Kamali, dumped Sherwin, given that they had Thurston and chose not to run with Thurston.
Well, Thurston's who they had Anasta and Sherwin at the time. Was Polamatta still in their system? I don't know. I don't really care.
Polamatta was done by then.
You're right. Thurston was moved on, too small. Also, they said anyway. So yeah, Bulldogs.
I thought it was also Sonny Bill Williams. Also, you could tell he wasn't as interested.
No, and it was later
because soon after he bailed early next season, which in hindsight was appalling. So
the way he did it,
and just the way he was accepted back and was lauded back by rugby league fans. Sonny Bill completely abandoned the Canterbury Bulldogs in the middle of the season where they really needed him. It wasn't good.
Completely abandoned, and then came back to the Roosters, to the Sombreros, on a very, very bargain basement contract after.
Yeah, that was outrageous.
Yeah, having gone and played rugby union, which is dubious, and then obviously getting a premiership first year back, and he was basically a depth play for them. He was off the bench. They already had a pack they couldn't fit him into, so that was dubious. If I was a Bulldogs fan, I would have been spewing. I'm not going to quite compare it to Valentine Holmes and his little NFL escape, but still, it kind of, looking at him, it did remind me of that kind of the.
Yeah, it reminded me of that.
If you're going to leave, give us notice. But
so tell me, look at this. The Sharks are up 24-20. What's going to happen here? You're just feeling Sharks tragedy, aren't you? Williams, what's going to run us through?
Well, you're feeling tragedy, maybe not. We actually did, a testament to the halves, Kamali and Dykes we had at the time, and the forward pack tucking the ball on the arm and getting good yardage, and then getting a few repeat sets. We turned the tide a bit, started control a little, and then in my notes I wrote try, Matt Shearer, Paul Gallen. So he carved up the field with inside balls. Dykes left to Noddy, who then puts an inside ball to Gallen, hidden spin, beats Lee Tamari, and then Luke Patton under the post. Surely it's a try, gets sent up. All the replays show that he made it was a bit of an odd one in that the ball was coming down and it was actually on the side of his hand.
It was a try. It was BS.
He still had control over it. There was obviously well before the period where the referee would send up whether it's try or no try. That came in, I think, 2013. Well before the period, I think it was 2015, 2016, when the bunker came in, where you could actually hear what they're saying. We have a decision and going to the board. None of that. And then it came back, no try. Cue pandemonium for the Bulldogs fans. Cue despair and disbelief from us going, what is going on? The commentators, so Voss, Gould, they're going, that is a dead set try that's been taken off him. What's going on? Bulldogs get some ball. Thankfully, they turned it over shortly afterwards, so don't do too much with it. We then kind of control the game from there for the next few minutes, and then Paul Gallen makes amends. He seals it twice, so he gets obviously the no try in the 74th minute, then a try in the 78th. This one is worth it, I suppose. If you're going to miss a try, this one was better in that he beats Brent Sherwin, Daniel Holdsworth, Corey Hughes, and Sonny Bill Williams. Maybe Sonny Bill, you're saying, yeah, you're right. Maybe not as interested. He was caught a bit flat-footed there, but beats 4 defenders out wide from dummy half to score. Then Luca Bell nails the sideline conversion in front of the CWC. Sharks 30, Bulldogs 20. Yeah, you're not going to finals.
Sing the song now?
Yeah, it was a bit early to say you're not going to finals, especially when we see how the 2007 season runs out and where the Bulldogs finish or where we finish. But it was a good win. And the
Bulldogs kick it out on the full.
They did. They did kick it out in the full. I suppose I was celebrating it from there. Didn't watch too much more of the match, given that. But
the Sharks couldn't be bothered kicking the 2 points from the halfway line, even though we know that we had the only kicker that can actually do that.
Well,
because Cavell could kick the ball so far.
Kyle Felt did do that. So Ronan watches these little kind of montages, compilations on YouTube, and there's some long field goals and long penalty goals. It's one of the videos that he watches, and one Kyle Felt on halftime. I kicked it from 55 metres a few years ago. I think it was against the Tigers up in Townsville, the old Townsville dairy farmers. And a field goal stakes. There was the Benji Marshall one where he kicked a field goal from 49 metres for the Tigers against, I think it was the Titans at Campbelltown. They hit the crossbar and went over. So that was 49 metres. But Cavell did kick a 45-metre penalty goal against the Dragons early the following season in Golden Point, when, who was that, Jason Riles, I think, had lifted the knee in the tackle or given away a penalty in possession. And then and he cleared it too by a fair way. I reckon he could have kicked that one from 60 metres, but you're right, they didn't take it. But
pretty unlikely to get a kick from 50 metres, so I can see why they just couldn't be bothered.
Yeah. So just wrap it up there. Don't risk any injuries.
As we've established, you're a 1 in 200 chance of tying with someone on the damn for and against anyway. So why kick the damn 2 points?
That's it. Oh well, there's always that conundrum too with whether it goes from you go from a 1 to 12 point win to a 13+ win for those that are betting as to what that means for them.
Well, it was 10 points anyways. That didn't matter.
Yeah, so it did make
this is always a bit harsh.
Yeah, but on to Isaac De Gois. He had his moment in the sun there, and that was peak De Gois form for the Sharks, I believe. Obviously, he would then move on to the Knights in 2009. So I remember we will eventually do this topic where we talk about players that sign for other clubs, and you think, gosh, I'm devastated by that. And this was one of them.
De Gois leaving sucked. Didn't we get like Corey Hughes in?
Yeah, we did. And that was good. Corey Hughes actually played okay against us here, but he was...
Oh, no. Didn't we establish in our win-loss records video that Corey Hughes...
He's the worst.
He's one of the worst Sharks of all time.
I think he had a ratio of 3 from 21 or something silly. So,
it's a horrendous record.
He was... I only remember one try assist, and that was the one against Canberra.
Was that the one where the Corey Hughes Gallen one?
The Gallen, yeah. Go right, duck.
Go right, then go left, then go behind.
Yeah, so which, gosh, these days would probably get denied for an obstruction. But Isaac De Gois did play for us from 2007 to 2008, and then he came back again, 2012 to 2014. He played a total of 106 matches for the great club that is the Cronulla Southern Sharks, 16 tries, and he had a win percentage of exactly 50%, which I suppose, it's right.
He got caught up in the SADA then.
He did. 53 wins, 52 losses, 1 draw. He was in the... actually, no, he missed it. He was at Newcastle at the start of this scandal. Or the period in question was the start of 2011. He was still with Newcastle, and then he came back to the Sharks. He was at the club when that was going down, though. So
he's like a Sharks legend, Isaac De Gois, I reckon. Yeah. He's one of the more popular players, I think.
and I think as unfortunate as is to say, I think that his first stint with us in 07-08 was much better than his second stint. He did cop a lot of knocks
lost
and a
the
lot of
speed.
injuries. He lost the speed, and that was that spark that he provided off the bench, similar to later in 07 or 08 after we lost Kingston. We had Terence Siusu. So De Gois became the starting hooker. Siusu came on to give the spark. And yeah, De Gois, he lost that yard of pace. He did play another 3 seasons for the Eels after leaving us 2014, 2016. He started with the Tigers in 2006 and obviously in there with Newcastle. He played 09 to 2011. So overall, he played 225 first grade games, which is a lot more than I thought. That's quite a career. 225, 28 tries. He played 1 international for Portugal, I believe. Don't have any details here on that, but Andrew Voss does refer to that in the commentary. And he was just actually 2016. He played 1 match for Wentworthville. There you go. Sorry, I was about to go off and say that he played a whole stack in the New South Wales Cup as well, but no, he didn't. It's just one of my favourite players. Obviously, had a great chance too. And that try there was, we dared to dream when that occurred.
Was probably the pinnacle of put your hands up.
And I mean, 06, we had Darren Albert in the side, so he was fast. We scored a few okay specky tries, but still the 07 Sharks were copping that pretty fair comment about being a grinding team, a team that doesn't have much by way of attack. And then when De Gois came off the bench and did that, I remember the reaction obviously was, how good's this? But also too, it's like, wow, if he can do that and create that attacking spark from there, what else can we do? So anyway, we ran in 5 tries against the Bulldogs, which is one of the higher amounts of tries we scored that year. On to the next one. Fraser Anderson. He was getting a lot of raps in this match for his play, and early on he dragged Willie Tonga into touch. He actually started with us as a winger. I think at one stage we had him and Dustin Cooper as our wingers in early 2007. So two large gentlemen, but he converted into probably the position he was more suited to, which was second row. Really good 2008 season for us, and then left for Japanese rugby at the start of 09 when everything
suddenly left, didn't he?
Yeah, it was there. It was a big money contract. I remember Ricky Stewart writing in his column in the Daily Telegraph or the Sunday Telegraph saying that it's a shame that he left because he's losing all the he's traded away for money all the benefits he would have got from the camaraderie of the team and all that, which I can see what he's doing, but I don't know what his Japanese. I know I say French. Japanese rugby career ended up being like. It was probably long and illustrious, and plenty of tries for him over there because he had speed for a big man and he could tackle as well. So
I think the Sharks just had to let him go at that time because the money was so big. It just wasn't appropriate not to let someone make that choice if they wanted to.
Well, I think
sometimes as a football club, you have to make those choices and let your people go because you want to be seen as looking after your players. And so that's another way of attracting future players. And if you hold people to these contracts when it's not necessarily to their advantage, it can cause you problems. But I remember thinking at the time, geez, that's a bummer with Fraser Anderson. And you just felt that 2009 season falling apart once he bounced out. And whilst he wasn't the major player, to be a successful team, you need your Fraser Andersons and Isaac De Gois floating around, and just, your players on not quite as much money as Nico Hines might be, for example, just really contributing. And those two were
looking at 08, he played 25 matches for us, scored 6 tries, had a 72% win percentage. I mean, we did well that year, but he played
that's pretty high though.
Starting second row from rounds 12 through the rest of the season.
Once Lance Thompson moves on, right?
Yeah, Lance Thompson retired, and the second or the back row was Gallen,
Fraser,
Anderson,
Gallen, and
Bird. So he
until
held his
Bird's
own there.
No longer in there.
Yeah, so he played a total of 43 matches for us, 12 tries. And they do mention in commentary because he'd been with the Broncos and had played 2 matches in 2006 for them and had been in their reserve grade system and the like. And Wayne Bennett said this guy will be an absolute superstar in 2 to 3 years. You just got to give him the development. Obviously, we gave him that development. He showed that and then moved on. He had a number of brothers. So he's brother of Louis Anderson and Vinnie Anderson as well, who played for the Warriors and played internationals for New Zealand. Long careers there.
He's more a second rower in today's mold of the game, really, Fraser Anderson, wasn't he?
Absolutely. Yes, definitely.
I had
So,
one question for you coming out of this match that
yeah,
I thought was interesting with watching Paul Gallen in the second row is the trajectory of Paul Gallen's career given the departure of Greg Bird and how Paul Gallen's role within the Sharks changed after Greg Bird left. Because
great
you
question.
see clearly in this match how important Greg Bird is
Mm.
as playing lock and is the middle forward. And so if Greg Bird plays another 8 years for the Sharks, what happens to
Yeah.
Paul Gallen? Does he stay in the second row or has he become a middle forward? And
I think he becomes a middle forward. I think he essentially became that anyway. He was playing prop despite wearing 13 on his back.
well, he's
And I
playing prop
think
he played prop in the New South Wales Origin team, but that
yeah,
was a little bit later.
he wore jersey 8, and that was in 2012, I think, 2011,
I think
2012,
so.
when he had that 80-minute prop performance.
Maybe
Winning
13.
man of the match. Yeah,
But it was around then.
It was around that time when he was just doing standard things, and there was all the memes getting around, essentially like Chuck Norris.
I think it
Paul
definitely
Gallen,
changes the trajectory of his career.
it does. Does it give him more longevity as well, given that if him and Bird are sharing that load, because Gallen, especially after Bird's departure, definitely became that guy that tried to do everything. Definitely was taking plenty
Well,
of
it does.
tackles.
We certainly might have given him more finals victories.
Yeah, but yeah, obviously Bird was class
Greg Bird
there.
was good. Geez, we'd take Greg Bird today.
Yeah, we would.
He'd be handy. 5'8".
They're really good questions to ask, and I suppose we'll have to put that in the box. Maybe do it on a live show, maybe off season. Looking at of giving De Gois and Fraser Anderson their moment in the sun here, being the more niche players. But yeah, the obviously Bird opportunity, what lost, what might have been there. But yeah, I love those hypotheticals. What would have happened of Gallen's career?
I just thought that one was really telling watching. I just thought Gallen was overshone in this one, certainly by Bird. And he did have those kind of soft hands. So maybe Gallen doesn't bulk up quite as much. Might have changed.
Yeah, he definitely had speed. I know that it's been replayed a few times. So Billy Slater's debut in that ill-fated match in round 1
Gallen's
2003.
chasing him.
Gallen chases him down on the angle and literally meets him at the line. Slater still scores the try, but Gallen covered more ground in the same time, I suppose. So yeah, he had speed. And Gallen, I think, having read his book, he talks about how he played, I think, in the centres growing up, and then it was Elise Perry, so the female cricket / soccer player for the Matildas, her dad, who was coaching him at Parramatta Maris at the time, that moved him to the second row for the first time in schoolboy footy in the whatever it was called at the time, Arrival Live Cup, Nutri-Grain Cup, whatever it was.
Whatever that thing was called.
Yeah, the old schoolboy thing they used to show, I think, on a Saturday morning on Channel 9, a quick...
With Vossi commentating, wasn't it, for a while?
It was Vossi commentating, correct.
Benji Marshall was the champion player in that.
Well, Vossi, I remember hearing him, we're doing another tangent, he talks, I heard him interviewed talking about how highly he rated Wade Graham. He said biggest halfback he's ever seen, played halfback all the way through, and was just an absolute superstar. Had the passing game, had the kicking game, and he was built like a second row, and he was playing halfback. Obviously, he went and played second row, but just shows those players that stand out. But moving on, our record versus the Dogs at the time was horrid. Have a look. This full match replay is on the NRL and Sharks website. So we'll thank you guys for having this one. Andrew Voss in his commentary, the first line is the Sharks have a horror record against the Bulldogs. They've won 1 of the last 7 and 2 of the last 10. We've got a better record recently, and next Tuesday night we will cover our full record against them. But in this year, obviously, Bulldogs won the grand final in 2004. They were really good 03, salary cap affected, but obviously still racking up wins in 02. Beat us a few times in 2001 before we had that massive win in the semi-final. So I think looking at that, one of those 2 out of 10 in the last out of 10 matches would have been that 52-10 win. The other one I'm racking my brain to think of. I might have to have a look. But do you have any particular memories?
There was the one, I think we won by, there was one where we went out to the showground and we won by 2 points, and Chris Kelly and I stole this massive sign that said bar here that was as big as a car.
Okay. Yes, so the old showground. Horror.
Yeah, I think it was like 24-22 or something like that.
Terrible game.
I remember Chris and I thinking we were going to get beaten up.
Yeah, terrible ground to watch football at, that one. But yeah,
it's awful.
You're right on that one. Looking at that, I do know we lost one or two controversially late on at the showground as well. There was definitely one where in 01 where we gave away a penalty in possession. I think it was Jason Stevens again for like a knee
that
lifted
rings
in
a
the
bell.
tackle, and they'd gone. I think the referee was Paul Simpkins. They'd gone a few players further, like let's say 2 or 3 tackles downfield. We're about to kick downfield, and then the referee got obviously the video ref in his ear and blew a penalty and marched back 20 metres back downfield. And the Bulldogs had a kick from in front to win it. And I remember there was
This is like classic Sharks, isn't it? Really,
Peachy was definitely waving his hands in that one and didn't get
talking
sent
with his hands, Shane.
rightly. But I do remember that was a Friday night game, and I remember there was big controversy out of that one. So yeah, Bulldogs were a good side, but and obviously we were favoured to win this one, but still you never know. They had class to get back into it. They obviously had Patton, they had El Masri, and El Masri was really good. I thought in this game it showed like he's shown many times that he like Daryl Halligan. People think, he's just a goal kicker, but no, he was a very, very good football player, really good winger. He came in actually, and I think he took a grubber early on in the first half and put his body on the line against Greg Bird and came out on top. And we know how physical Greg Bird was. So not that it's a Bulldogs podcast, but they had some quality and we still won. Moving on, Luke Cavell, 5 from 5. Hazem Masri, 2 from 4. So, yeah, Cavell was on song there. Cavell's kicking form, though, his percentage overall is a lot lower than you may think from memory.
75% at the start of this game. I remember seeing that number.
Yeah.
Isn't he like a 69 or 68% kicker?
Yeah, no, for his career, he did finish at 74.78, so 75%. But
that's pretty good.
Few seasons.
But it's hardly Nico Hines' 95% that he's got at the moment.
That's Nico is unbelievable. And I suppose for those, whenever you listen to it, we're filming this hot on the heels of the Sharks having lost 30 points to 28 against the Dolphins, with Nico missing the kick from the sideline. I missed the most recent, reviews of that match. Anyone who's given stick to Nico, we wouldn't have even been in that match or many others without Nico's kicks to begin with. He was nailing them from everywhere, 94%.
I think Nico's probably won us maybe 3 games on his goal kicking so far.
Yeah.
And even if you count this one against him and say we lost it because of his goal kicking, it's still 3-1. Sorry, I'll take that odds. They'll take those numbers. Thanks.
Positive. We're not talking 2019 era where we had Chad, we had Val, we had Kyle Flanagan all kicking terribly. And we lost, 5 matches that year, having scored more.
Even if he gets that kick, we're still only a 50-50 to win anyway.
Exactly. It's odds on. We probably aren't the way the Dolphins were making ground downfield. But that was another point. But Cavell was on song here today. He kicked a few from the sideline with plenty of boos in the background. It was in that time period of his career where he had that reverse fade. He kicked the skin off the ball every time.
That's right. He could do that. He could do it where he flicks it, where he kicks it, and it swings the other way.
Reverse, which was so good from
which is fun.
So he was a left foot kicker, so good from the left touch line. So not the preferred side for a left foot kicker, and he just reverse swing it through every time. It was almost like when, and that picture there shows Cavell kicking from closer range. They were the ones that he missed all the time. It was the ones, the gimmies that he would just spray, and the ones from the sideline, it was almost like, oh, this is I reckon an 80% chance of going in here. So Cavell, great player. And moving on, that era, I've got a picture of Ricky Stewart there. We'll show another picture of that era in a sec. It was full of hope. I did believe, I did hope. And then we went on a 7-match losing streak shortly after this one. All of them, losses, by less than 6 points. We had some.
It was 4 and 2 points. It was the generation of just losing by a little bit. And so that's why the 2008 season was so encouraging. And the chat in 2008 was, they've worked out how to win those close games. And they did arm wrestle a little bit more in 2008. But what could have been with this season? They were, 2? I think it's 2 or 4 points outside the 8.
Yeah.
And it was a pretty weak final series, other than the Storm, who were just clearly better than everyone else because they were cheating.
Well, you look at actually the final standing. So the Bulldogs finished 6th with 12 wins and 12 losses, which is ridiculous. The fact that you could finish 6th and win as many games as you lose. I mean, sure, they had better for it against the other two teams that made the 8.
Yeah, Melbourne basically hardly lost.
But Melbourne and Manly were standout.
Yeah, and I think the bottom teams are really crap.
And I incorrectly stated before that Parramatta were minor premiers. They were sitting in the box seat for the minor premiership at the time when we beat them later that year. And they went in a bit of free fall. But the top 8 that year was, Melbourne, Manly, North Queensland, Warriors, Parramatta, Bulldogs, South, Brisbane. And the Bulldogs, South and Brisbane were all tied on, what was that? Yeah, 26 competition points. So you're right, week final series there. That was the old McIntyre system as well. While I'll quickly rattle off.
I remember the Warriors went out
scores
straight
after.
sets in that final series.
Let me just confirm that. I think being 07, I didn't pay too much attention to that. Yeah. The Warriors
once the
lost.
Sharks are not in it, we're not watching the final series.
Yeah,
Who cares?
the Warriors lost in Mount Smart 12-10 to Parramatta, and then they got pumped by the Cowboys 49-12 in week 2 of the final. So where the Sharks, after this one, we were believing it was Origin period. We then copped a few injuries, suspensions, and then we had a horror
was injured
game.
at the end of the season.
Yeah, we had a horror game.
And Dykes was also a bit injured too. So they had a funny halves pairing, Craig.
We did. Brett Seymour come in. I think Brett Carney played a bit in the halves. We had Greg
Someone
Bird,
else played there
Gallen.
too. I can't remember who.
Oh, Greg Bird, Paul Gallen. A few of them rotated through. We had someone else in there as well. Goodness
there was
knows.
another. There's a random one. I can't remember what it was.
Yeah, we backed this game up with a 13-12 loss in Golden Point against the Roosters, who weren't much chop in that era. Anthony Minicello scored a match-winning field goal in that one. We then lost to North Queensland 26-24. We beat the Dragons in the knock the fence over Monday night match, 20 points to 16. We then went back.
We also see at the end of this one, Matty, the CWSC going down towards the fence and
they were a bit more
the Sharks players.
The Stadium Australia was built a bit more robustly than the regional ground that is Okie Dokie Cograil. But I think we'll ride there. The team came across; they were very happy. But we had lots of losses by 4 points against Souths, 2 points against the Bulldogs at home later that year. Again, we lost to Brisbane by a reasonable amount. Lost by 1 point to Melbourne. Beat Parramatta by 1 point. Lost to the Tigers by 1 point. Beat the Gold Coast by a bit, and we beat Canberra by a bit. But it was a 7-match losing streak from rounds 14 to 21 that saw us free fall from 4th or 3rd even to 11th, and that's where we finished. Obviously the scorecard as well, just to wrap up for those listening to Spotify. So it was the Sharks 30 with tries to Philip Luluai, the first of his career, Isaac DeGoy.
Let's sing the song now, shall we, Matthew?
Ben Pomeroy, Paul Gallen, Luke Belfast, while the Bulldogs, Brent Sherwin tries very. And Andrew Williams, the other tries, has Melbourne Masri 2 from 4. Sharks win 30 points to 20 and finished 11th. Sharks had 10 wins, 14 losses. The Bulldogs had 12 wins, 12 losses, finished 6th. So if we snuck into the 8, what might have been, we did beat the Gold Coast 28-12 in the second last round and Canberra 22-12 in the final round. We'll go one more picture for those that aren't on Spotify and have a look at that glorious image from the 37th minute of the CWC there in full flight. Can't see either of us there, but I know we were there.
I'm in it. You can just see us. Where's Boldo in this one?
Where's Boldo?
You can just see me.
Have a look at that another side time. But anyway, next week we will be playing against, I believe it's the Titans at Coffs Harbour.
Titans in Coffs Harbour, Matthew.
So we've played a few matches there now, so we might be able to pull one from that bank, or otherwise we can have a look at wins over the Titans at Shark Park. And in the meantime, if you do have any memories of this match, if you were there, or just remember that magic moment that Isaac DeGoy's provided, or that late Paul Gallen double that wasn't a double, that should have been a double, please send them through. Hit the like and subscribe as always. And thank you for that one, David. We'll say
thank you, Matthew. Always a pleasure doing the classic Cronulla Chronicles with you. Shout out to you and the effort that you put into their cities. Just a fun trip down memory lane, just reliving this match. We'll put the link to this one on NRL.com to go and watch as well.
Plenty of hypotheticals in there, so if you've got any comments on those, please do send them through. If you've got any hypotheticals you want us to talk about, send them through as well. I love that stuff. I don't want to talk about the real stuff. I want to talk about what if we had Kamali and Hines in the halves. How would we go? Anyway, up, guys. Chat soon. Go Sharks.
See you guys.